righty. Hi, I'm Dan, and this is Rave Sensation. And on this episode, I am going to be talking about the Small Press Expo of 2024 and the day I went. And I had a special guest with me, Kurt from Turbo Pit Fighter was down. Yep, there we go, Turbo Pit Fighter, and drove down, and we attended the show together along with my middle child, Carter, um, and we had a good time. Kurt, why don't you talk about what you expected from the show, and then we'll get into the things we picked up.
Sure, but first thing I want to do is just thank you for the hospitality and the easy drive. So I live up in North Wilmington, Delaware, and you're down there at the southern part of Baltimore. And literally, I just got on 95 and then shot straight to you. So we're going to be doing this probably a couple more times over the next couple of months because it was super easy, and I just had a great time with you, Dan and Carter. So once again, I just have to thank you for welcoming me to your home and the Rave Sensation studio compound.
You mean that little corner of the basement?
I'm telling you, it's a heck of a lot larger than what I've got. But oh wow, look, we got horns ablazing already. But yeah, both of us in talking prior to going, and then me, inviting myself down. In the past, I think I was there about 6 years ago with a friend of mine, Carlos Torres, who I'll be mentioning in this. And it was less than spectacular, or there was just nothing for me, to be quite honest. And I had a lot of reservations going in to this show, but just like anybody involved in any kind of industry, you have to look to the positive and be optimistic. And wow, what a difference! So we definitely went on the Sunday, and we got there, had breakfast, and went through. But I used the map, to the fullest. So when I came in, we came in, I think it was on this side. Yeah, it was this side. And then I do this zigzag thing because there's so much, though. There is so much there. I just look for sword and sorcery, black and white comics is really what I did. But, one of the things, both of us had the opportunity is we both were there in the beginning of SPX. Remember that?
Yeah, I've been going for a very long time. Various years I've skipped. Sometimes when I just was kind of in a funk and I didn't feel like going. And then there were occasionally family things where I couldn't go, but I've done the majority of the shows. So, and I have some of the old books around somewhere that they used to do of contributors, where they would each get a page. And of course, there was one I just had my hands on like 2 weeks ago, and of course, I can't find it now for this episode. But yeah, so I've been going a long time. I've seen a lot of changes, especially in the type of art styles and stuff, and what people are bringing. And sometimes I feel like, boy, I'm an old guy, and the new people coming in are not necessarily doing work that I'm interested in. I am not someone who's saying these are the best comics. These are
right. Right.
I'm someone who just likes kind of what he likes. I occasionally buy things. I occasionally buy things that are outside my wheelhouse just because they catch my eye. But there were a lot of vendors there that were producing nice artwork, but it was just not for me. But yeah.
It's tough. It's a tough show because it is a visual assault on your eyes and your consciousness. And it's also expensive. So I've seen a lot of people do reviews of SPX 2024. Obviously, we're coming in about 2 weeks after, but all of them really had this one bullet point, which is you're really not going to find anything for less than $10. And God bless, it's because those artists, those creators, and those book vendors, they need to sell a lot of books to be able to cover the cost of doing that show, flying in, hotel, table fee, and then just the books. So mathematically and accounting wise, it's a tough thing. But my biggest critique still stands that the SPX website really doesn't do everybody justice. I started from the website copying, pasting people's names into
Yeah.
Instagram just to get an idea. And of course, after about 15 minutes of that, I just got exhausted and frustrated. But I'd like to be able to click through. And like you said, I remember back in the day when they first started, that they had it was a one page each artist creator had. So you bought that or you got it a part of the admission and you flip through it and you're like, oh crap, that's really cool. I'll go to D5 and check more out of that artist, that type of thing. Because we're all not millionaires wandering around there supporting everybody there, and it is about taste.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I want to stress to everybody that you and I have similar tastes.
Yeah.
This is not an overview of the entire show because we just do not. Uh, there's a lot of stuff there that is just. There's a lot of stuff there that's slicker than I like. I'm not saying I never like
Yeah.
anything that's really slick
Clean.
and professional, but
Yeah.
that's the exception. I usually look for more ragtag stuff, and I'm looking for genre stuff that catches my eye. And so so yeah, there's a lot of good artists there that I'm just not spending money on. And this is not to tell you. This is just showing what we got, what we like,
Yeah.
and we're gonna put links in there for you to try and track these people down. So
Absolutely.
so what was the first thing? What's the on the top of your pile?
So the top of my pile, which was really at the top of my list, was seeing Jim Rugg for the first time, and being able to say hi and thank you for Cartoonist Kayfabe. This is his newest conspiracy comic. I remember seeing this cover and I adore it. And his work has grown on me, I have to admit. When they first did the channel, it was always about Street Angel, and I was like, not really there. But Octobriana, he did do that. I did get a copy of that. I did get an issue of. I have gotten issues of Hulk Grand Design as well. And then there was a one he did prior to this. I also picked up, but I ordered, online, but was able to, obviously be able to make the purchase in person. Like I said, be able to say hi and thank you. And I've cracked it open. I've checked it out, but I am really looking forward to getting into it.
Very good. Yeah, I have that one. It looks a lot like the one he had just done, the True Crime Funnies.
That's it. That's
Uh,
it. The True Crime Funnies.
yeah, and he's a bit of a chameleon. I think there's a couple different ways. I've heard I've sometimes when I'm reading reviews they go like, and Jim Rugg's distinctive style, but
Yeah.
there's a couple different types of styles that Jim does, and as you know, he can pretty much imitate anybody he wants with his when he does those tribute covers. I mean, he can
Yeah.
get it
Yeah.
right down to no matter what kind of technique they're using. He seems
Yeah.
to be able to ape it. But yeah, this is very similar, a little close to what he started doing with Aphrodisiac and
Yeah.
some of those. So I enjoyed it. It's a good one. Uh, yeah, that was good, and it's good to meet. I had just seen him at the Ed Piskor Comic Con, which was a much smaller affair, and I talked to him for a little while there. So I've seen him a couple times over the years, and I've got most of his stuff. I'm really happy. I was able to pick up one of his older titles that I had water damaged a copy of, but Yeah, it was good. Um, so I'm going to show now. I'll show this one here, and this is one that Carter picked up. And I'm trying to remember the artist's name. I can't really read this very well because
Wow.
it's so
Tiny.
Pratt. It's um, I think the artist's last name is Pratt. A.T. Pratt. That's who it is. And they do these. These are all being done by hand. There's no way they can afford to outsource this. But this great, fun looking little comics. But then the big thing is there's all this pop up
Wow.
stuff, and
Wow.
the display they have is
Wow.
really miraculous at the show. Um, and this is one of the smaller. I don't want to mess this up too much, but there's pop ups within pop ups. There's one more in there. Hopefully, I can do that without. So there they all go together. Now, hopefully, this is going to pop right back in there. I don't want to mess up Carter's book. But anyway, Carter picked this up.
Wow.
They're kind of expensive, but considering the amount of
Yeah.
handwork that has to go into this, I'm kind of ashamed that Carter took more of a, picked this up before I did. But they live at home. They got spending money. As long as I'm doing this book by Carter, I'm going to show off the other thing Carter got. There was a printmaker there, Kathy Johnson,
Yeah. Yeah. That's
and
gorgeous.
I've never heard of Mountain Goats, but it's a band that Carter likes. They, internet wise, they've never seen them live. Looks like from Boston. Um, but this was a show poster they had done, and Carter just really liked the print, and so picked it up. And it's really really great, really well done. You print number 91 out of 145, so beautiful. So that's what Carter ended up getting. Um, Show those off. There you go. You want to flip to something else, or I have a few
Check
more
it.
books than you, so maybe I'll do
Yeah.
another one.
Yeah. Show up that Bubbles Con.
Yeah.
That is sweet.
So Bubbles Con, they had the Richmond at the Richmond Public Library. They were having a kind of zine convention that was going to talk about comics and manga, and I had really wanted to go, but it's hard. I work retail, so it's hard to get off weekends a lot, and I already had asked off for weekend days for other things, family things and this and that. So I didn't manage to go to this, and I was really disappointed. Well, guess
Oh.
what? They did a whole issue where they have all the interviews that were done, all the presentations that were done are are transcribed and in here. So it's just like having gone. And Ryan Holmberg was the guy I really wanted to see. He's a guy who he's one of those rare birds who translates manga for a living, and it has a really long thing where he talks about the behind the scenes things about who decides what gets, how they decide what things are going to be translated. Um, do I have? I think I have right over here. I'm going to step away for a second. This is his latest. The thing I like, he has started a small offshoot label where he's doing personal things, and he admits that he can't afford to do some of the stuff he'd most like to do. So he's shining a light on some of the lesser artists. And this is
Yeah.
Her Frankenstein was the first one. And in that Her Frankenstein uh, manga, he did a great article about the Gothic horror mangas in Japan that were mostly meant for uh, young girls in Japan, but over here, a lot of guys are really interested in them. And so, and then this one's about a science fiction manga author. And in the back of it, he has another article Well, this is about, you know, this particular artist and the things he's referencing in here, all kinds of good pop culture and even political stuff. And then he has an article about the best of by this artist. Of course, none of this is translated, although it might be somewhere on the web. But gosh, I'd like some of this stuff, some more of this stuff to be translated. So anyway, that's in there. Great. This is a great fanzine, and this is a great issue. I think it's worth picking up.
Cool. So in my detection, my barbarian detection, I ran across Dave McKenna. And this is literally this is what caught me right out of the corner of my eye. You're just walking down these aisles, and I'm just literally just moving my head from side to side, looking at all the tables. And the first thing that hit me was Vaughn Baudet is just singularly being echoed out of this. Stepped up, and then took a flip through. It's erotic. It's lesbian based, and it's barbarian and otherworld. I mean, it was just basically everything. I mean, even the moment I go like that and it's black and white magazine size, you pretty much have me if you've caught me on the cover from here. So Berserk Hearts. I made a little indication on my map, and then swung back around after was able to catch my breath outside of the the interior part from all the congestion. A little quick glass of water there that got back in, and then when I did get back to him, he had all three of these for 15. And this is what I really do remember it being like back when. And I do also want to say that this stuff is there. This was when I saw Dave's stuff and then was able to talk to him. And of course, he's our age ish. He might have been maybe 8 or 10 years younger than us, but just doing it. Got a full-time job, and this is what he does to keep his happy place. And he comes, and if he it was just right out of the gate. I have to say, making that first pass and then meeting Dave. I started having a lot of hope, and it did all come, being paid off and everything. So, but another complaint is it is super congested. Dave had one of those 4 feet slots, so if there's somebody, if there's somebody already talking to Dave, then you've got to wait, but you can't stand in the middle of the aisle because then there's that flow. So it's kind of like, I get curious that Warren and all of the SPX supporters there are kind of like, yeah, we know this, but we kind of like it. It's well, not like that. It's like it kind of forces you to keep moving. They know there's a ton of stuff there, so don't just stand there in front of one person and talk to them for 45 minutes. Get around. And so it does pay off. So like you said earlier, Dave McKenna, and I have him. Also, my big thing was Jake Jacobs and I, who do Turbo Pit Fighter comics. We do a indie creator exchange podcast interviews with others. So I then do hey, would you like to come on and do an exchange and everything like that? Of course, I bought his books, but I gave him a copy of Turbo, so I'll have to reach out, make that reconnection again, and see if I can get him on. So there's a good chance some of these people will be in my stack on the Turbo Pit Fighter channel with an interview. So
that sounds great, because I did not have a chance to talk to him. There was somebody who was there forever looking at. He's got some stuff that's kind of I think it's gaming based, not Dungeons and Dragons, but RPG or whatever, role playing. Yeah, RPG based kind of stuff. Who was looking at that stuff and just nodded. But to go along with that, here's another book he had done. This is a really early one. This is like 2007, I think. Monsterland. It's a sci-fi one, Um, aliens come to Earth and take slightly human form to see what it's
Man,
like
that's
for
so
humans
good.
to mate. So
It's
there's
so good.
two giant people mating in a park, and of course they're giving off pheromones. So the lady scientist and her friend who've gone to look at them to study them also end up having to have sex. And
It's great.
I'm
It's
not sure if
great.
there's the monsters before they assume human form.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, it's a sex comic, but it's
He's good though. It's good.
it's
It's
very
good
much
stuff.
it's very much of those 80s kind of things. And I think it's really well done. I like his art a lot. And of course I can't show very much of this because there's a lot of sex in it. Um, but yeah, yeah, I was impressed with his stuff too.
Cool, cool. So yeah, then as I was moving along, caught it was one of these things where yeah, there is such a judging the book by its cover. But this is Lee Fish, who also goes by Uncle Lee Fish. He had a barbarian bird character. Cannot remember the name, so that's what drew me to the table. And then I told him I'll be back, and made an indication on my map. And of course, then when I returned, wow, what a just super talented, super great guy. Uncle Lee Fish got him to do an exchange. So I asked him, out of the three titles he had, what was going on, and I chose the Alice Lost in Wonderland because Jake does a Alice in Wonderland parody, which he's actually finishing up with his middle schoolers who are coloring his pages of this. Pearl White Malady is the name of the book, and he deals with public domain characters, which is another topic that Jake and I are always quick to talk about and discuss, and are very interested because so many other things are coming in there. But once again, super professional, well done. I always make the critique on color, not just being color in color, but how well or poorly it is colored. Very well colored, but I could see this translating to a black and white as well. So he once again is on the list for a possible indie creator exchange interview. So once again, there's a good chance we'll have more shared with us from Uncle Lee Fish.
Very good. I'll jump to this next one. This is Dick Carroll, and he does autobiographical comics. I like this art style in the cover here, this retro kind of look to it, but also with hints of a more modern style. And he was really nattily dressed, and he looked like a bit of a character. And it turns out he mostly does fashion design, and he
Oh,
just does the comics as a sideline. One of the things was I picked this little autobiographical one, and it's okay. It's not, it wasn't as exactly what I hoped, but because these slice of life things are pretty kind of hard to impress. Although it is funny to see, it's a pretty good slice of every man kind of procrastinating kind of stuff. One thing he had was he had a catalog of some of his designs, and they were done in a comic book format with comic book characters wearing the designs. And he tried to talk me into buying that, but I went for the more traditional comic book style instead. But it was a really interesting table, and I kind of look for some odd things now and again. But I would definitely check out more stuff. I like his style. Maybe I just picked out this is issue 5 of his little self-published comic. But yeah, that was interesting.
yeah, that's another indicator for me, is that retro cartooning style that goes back to like the 50s, with maybe even the stuff that was in Playboy, or like Wenzel, um, Bill Ward. When the comic book quality is more than just hammering something out. That can be attractive, but the slice of life, I will say, is a hard sell for me. But if you're funny enough, you might get me. But so the Pescatore and Loco was not there, but
I meant to buy that and I forgot when I went back through. I mean, I spent every dollar I took. I spent every dollar.
I think that was the reason. I think that was the reason because they were behind Carlos Torres, and I know you dropped some money on Carlos. So, but Pescatore and Loco Gonzalez will be actually this Sunday on the Indie Creator Exchange interview. We were supposed to have them months ago, but you'll notice that they were previously published by Scout Comics, and they when Scout was having its miscommunication or lack thereof, zero communication issue, and lost some of their creators. He has now found a new publisher, and of course he'll be talking about that. But this was one of those best things. So the day before Sunday, I was talking, messaging back and forth with Pescatore, and I said, "Oh, what's your address? I'll send you the turbo teaser." And he sent me the address, and it was outside of Baltimore. And I said, "Wait a second." Went on the website for SPX, looked his name up, and sure enough, he's there. So I texted him back. I said, "You're going to be at SPS?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm actually there right now," because it was Saturday. And I said, "Well, I'm going to be down there tomorrow, so I'll personally hand you a copy of the Turbo Pit Fighter." So it was, once again, it was just a really good feeling to be able to meet somebody you've been talking to, through the internet, and you get that human, exchange and then seeing stuff in the flesh and everything. But I couldn't spend too much time talking to him because I didn't want to waste any of it for the interview. But this will be one to look forward to, is the Pescatore Loco Gonzalez Junction Jones, and hearing about their Scout Comics, mishap, and then finding a new publisher and other things that they're working on. So once again, excellent. Really cool stuff. Yep.
That sounds good. That sounds great, Kurt. Could you let us see just one page from the inside?
Sure.
Oh, I'm gonna make.
Yeah, I try to.
I just want to see.
Late. Yeah, I know you, and this is. When we saw this, Jake and I. Here's computer rendering, but Loco Gonzalez is the artist, and the way he treats black and white, even through the digital, is masterful in translating it to print. And like I said, the only thing I would, just as a personal aesthetic, it's on the glossy paper thing, so not a big fan. If it was on the newsprinty cheapy paper, it would even get more of that texture in there. But aside from that, great characters, great storytelling, Pescatore, and the art is just super solid. And a teaser is that the new publisher is releasing a trade paperback for this. So that's some super exciting news for that. So yep.
Alrighty. So I do have a couple things here. There are some big publishers, of course, there. I mean, I used to meet all the Fantagraphics guys over the years have been at SPX, because they always have a table, and now Floating World, which has become one of my favorite publishers,
yes.
always has a table there. Rich, I think you say his name, Tommaso.
That's how I do it. At least in my head.
a big favorite of mine. I love his comics. He has done a ton of stuff. He did a great werewolf fantasy comic at one point that is just absolutely fantastic. He's done a ton of stuff. Occasionally he'll do a comic where I'm kind of like, I don't get the point, but
Right, right.
I mean, I don't get the. It's not that they're hard to understand. It's that I don't know what, what he's trying to evoke in me or something. But or I'm not catching it. Like he's done some things that are
Reference.
kind of a homage Tintin or Tantan
Yeah,
or how you say it. That with the spy seal, and
yeah.
I'm not into the original thing, so what but I mean they're still okay. But most of his stuff I just absolutely love. He was there, and he had a special comic that was only for. Well, I don't know if it's only for there, but he was signing him at the live event, and even though it looked like just a regular comic, they were charging $40, and it was getting him to sign it and stuff. I think that
Wow.
I think that's probably how they were paying their way there. I don't know how. I seriously don't know how a table that has to have that has to have
Poor
several
Pete.
people working it, and then has
Oh gosh, yeah,
celebrity artists come. I don't know how they pay
yeah,
for that if they don't do something special like that. I don't see
yeah.
it.
You're right.
It happens.
Yeah, you're right.
So
You're
I
right.
didn't begrudge him, but what happened was he wasn't there right at that point. I might have done it. But he wasn't there. I walked away, and then I spent all the rest of my money. So, so it didn't happen. It didn't happen. But I did buy his newest issue, and once again, he's like, it's a callback to comics as far back as the 40s to the 60s, kind of, and just all kinds of weird, wild stuff done in his great style. I mean, he's very prolific, um,
Oh,
and
oh.
the style seems simple. So maybe that's it. There's some kids watching King Kong vs. Godzilla, and yeah, like I said, Floating World. And of course, Floating World is working with Power Comics. They're releasing things like the John Tar and New
Yeah,
York City Outlaws
yeah.
and Earthman, one of my favorite comics of all time. Um, so yeah, so I like I said, these would be considered pretty big publishers, and but Fantagraphics and companies like this have been, you know, they kind of bring it. When
Yeah.
Simon Hesselman, who does Hex, with the witch and the cat and everything, and um, he's a big draw now. There's the Hernandez brothers. They bring people to the show also. So anyway, over the years, like I said, I've gotten to meet most of the Fantagraphics people because of it.
A few
And
years, yeah, a few years back, before Jake and I started working, I was floundering between focusing, strongly on my sword and sorcery stuff. Of course, with my Crom the Barbarian being my main focus. But before then, I had fallen into that online comics web hole of Archie comics, and I just, for the life of me, couldn't get out of it, and started kind of like, let's say, rationalizing, working adjacent to the style, not trying to copy the style, but I just think the cartooning, and I do have to blame cartoonist kayfabe for it, because one of the greatest things about cartoonist kayfabe is their knowledgeable discussion about the art form, and the way a comic book works, and story and art and paneling and paces, and that whole thing. So I'd fallen into this just whirlpool and stuff. So I then come across Tommaso, either Instagram or something, and then fell down that hole and literally said, I bowed out because of him. I was like, there's no way I could get anywhere. This guy's been doing it for far too long.
well,
He's cornered the market. I just like, let's just back away and go back to Barbarians.
well, I would much rather see these guys like him doing this stuff than actually read another Archie comic itself.
I
My
agree.
sister
I
used to
agree.
get those. Somebody used to give my sister those all the time, and so I know I was reading them, and I've read them over the years just because so many people talk about them, and I like the pinup work some of those guys did, like Dan DiCarlo. I have a great book
Yeah.
of his pinup work.
That's the other.
Their
Yeah.
Fantagraphics is about to release a giant new. expanded edition of that Dan Carlos book.
Yeah.
Carlo book, Dan DeCarlo. And so that's something to look for. But most of the time, it's I would rather see somebody like this use it, or the Hernandez brothers were big Archie fans, and I'm
Yes.
much
Yes.
more likely to look at their stuff than I am Archie. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah, no. So I'm walking around. Like I said, I'm still zigging and zagging, and you and I had gotten disconnected for a little bit. You and Carter were off, finding treasures, and I went to check my phone to see if like maybe you had texted me to get reconnected, and I had a message from my old friend Carlos Torres, and I'm thinking, wow, how quaint. I'm down here at SPX, which last time I was down here, he was down here with me. And then he leaves me a message. I check the message. He goes, Kurt, it's Carlos. You just passed my booth. So I call him back, and he gave me the booth number, which was right behind Pescatore's booth for Judson Jones. And of course, made this reconnection with him. He ended up getting into the family expansion program. So, he has two wonderful kids with his wife, and work and everything, and not staying well in touch, because we do both live in North Wilmington here. And as a matter of fact, tonight we're having dinner to really get caught up. But I met Carlos years ago, like right when I was leaving Trader Joe's and getting into the comic book art scene and stuff. And I just have to say, and this is one of those things where he showed me his comic, and I know he's a friend of mine, but even before we became friends, and I was looking, he had this first comic and he was showing it off to me, and I was reading it. I was like, this guy is about ready to blossom and bloom and really bring, I think, indie comics something new and fresh. His voice, as a story is there, and also just his characterization and the way he approaches pen and ink. So he's actually the guy. I remember this very, very. I said, "Hey man, how did you get that texture there? Is that like zip or something?" He goes, "No, it's an old sock." I was like, what? He's like, that or an old shirt. He's like, I just keep old shirts that have like socks or whatever that have that like that texture on them, from the knit, and then I dab them in ink, and then I was like, I am stealing that. So he's a consummate. He is just one of those guys. I'm so excited to. And you have there off to the right his trade paperback. So he put together 4 issues. I have the issues 1, 2, and 2.5. So it's I think he has 3 out, which I'm hoping to get tonight, and 4 is on the way. But it's just, I don't want to ruin the story, because it's very difficult to describe, other than a guy just wants to do what he does as employment. And I think he has to paint these turnips on a planet, and it's surrealism and pure comic book nonsense. If you use the word nonsense in a super positive way. But it's just great. So getting reconnected with him is just going to be a great contribution.
I love the color on those covers. It
Yeah.
kind of makes me wish. I mean, I love the black and white, but when I see the kind of colors he's getting on the covers, it kind of makes me want to see in color too. He does a good job. He does a lot of full page drawings, and there's some spots where he's showing the giants, and he does a real good job of making them look, of handling the size and showing the size. Of course, now I'm not running across it right away, but
Right. So what do you got over there now?
Okay, I wasn't sure if you.
Oh yeah, I'm done. Yeah.
Okay.
Monster Fan Club.
Yeah, so I meant to do this right after the other one, because it's another floating world. So this is a really fun. It's oversized. It's color. Now, like right away, here's a Matt Fox
Wow. Oh yeah.
reproduction inside. There's shaky cane.
Wow.
Some real fun shaky cane. You get to see a guy cleaning a litter box for those of you who like a lot of action. Um, so it's an anthology of horror stuff, with the main thing being shaky cane. Somewhere around I have the first issue. This is issue 2, but it's all for guys who like monsters, like I do. And so there's all these monster cartoons by different people. There's a pinup someone has
Wow.
done of Hedora, the
Wow.
smog monster. That's really cool. And here's they've recreated box covers for. You might remember the Midnight Movies videos.
Yeah. Yeah.
Over there. And so there's the one for Planet of the Vampires.
Oh,
I
it's
don't
great.
remember this one for Werewolf of Washington. I think that,
Washington.
yeah, it's a Dean Stockwell thing.
Yeah.
It's all right. I've only ever seen it in terrible bootlegs because something got messed up with the copyright of it, so never got a decent release. And it's of course it's a parody kind of thing, and just all kinds of great artwork. A lot of shaky cane in this one. Here's another one that's this one's pretty funny about a worm who's a witch. And oops, I gave away the ending there.
Oh.
There's a Hans Bach
Oh Lord.
reproduction,
That
so
is
that gives you
wow.
a little bit of an idea about where they're coming from this. And again, Floating World Comics, great. You should check out their website. They distribute some other people's stuff on the website too. I actually don't know if they're distributing it or they're just selling it because they carry it in their store.
Right.
But great publisher, and I highly recommend these. They are $10 a piece, so they're not cheap, but it's really well done, really well printed, and I can't imagine they're selling a ton of them.
Yeah, but that's your wheelhouse, monsters. So
Yeah.
yeah, and I also have to say that that is the way I think. If I was ever to become a full blown publisher, I would open up a comic book store. I just
Yeah,
think they're
I
so hand in hand. Hey, here's a question.
yeah.
Did Atomic Comics ever get into publishing? I can't remember if they ever got into
Atomic Books,
some
you mean?
Atomic Books. Yeah, Atomic Books.
I don't know. I don't remember seeing
That might be
anything.
something that might be a really cool trip for us to do together. Is to because both of us.
Met the owner a couple times. I don't think he'd remember who I am or anything because I'm not really that good at hooking up with people. So,
Yeah.
but I talked to him a few times. He's really cool, and you can tell from all the independent comics and magazines and stuff he picks
Yeah.
up.
Oh,
He's got great taste. So I mean, he has a lot broader taste than I do, or maybe he's just trying to be very inclusive, kind of like any weird things. I mean, some of the fanzines he used to pick up were just so. I would have said like this is nothing,
Right.
but he thought they were worth picking up and carrying because they had
supporting
they could do in them.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, we should now that we're mentioning it, maybe hook up with him sometime. Anyway, or at least take a trip to the store together and see what we see.
Right. So I have only 2 more left. This was the Holy Grail. So I was going down to get a copy of J. Webster Sharp's The Scrapbook of Life and Death. Now, the story goes this way. Instagram did me good. There's Instagram. I don't know. I fare well with Instagram. In other words, if I end up liking and commenting on things that I'm honestly liking and commenting on, I am suggested new things. And I try to keep my Instagram account super strict in independent comic book artists, black and white, just like I said, all those aesthetic things. And I believe it's got to be over a year, maybe even over a year and a half. Miss Sharp's work started coming in, and I, this is one of these things where it's like I'm not a big body horror person. Like so her theme, let's say, is just not at the top of my list. but her craftsmanship in making a comic book, stippling being the obvious high end of it, I just fell in love with her work, and also doing my own work. Um, I use Instagram sort of like to flip through and remind me to do less of this or maybe get back to doing more. And she was always my, hey dummy, you got to do some more stippling in your art, because the handling of this is just amazing. The other thing is, uh, you know, I guess you could call it like non-conformed comic book sequencing. In other words, they're silent comics. So somebody could turn around and go, well, really, all it is like a scrapbook. So she's kind of leaning into it from the start, but they're just juxtaposed pictures that she's illustrated, but obviously they're mapped together on a comic book layout. But then um, when you put the pictures together, the pages, I should say, together, they start generating a story. It's very surrealist, very Dada, very Jungian, So I just adore. Once again, she is being published by Avery Hill. Where is their stuff here? Avery Hill. So I was able to talk to somebody there, handed a turbo teaser, explained that, I would reach out not only to them, but also Miss Webster, excuse me, Miss Sharp. And they're from England too. So by the way, they jumped the
Wow.
pond there to come in and come and put this, because I had to pay the shipping just to get a hold of this. But this was sort of their unveiling, so I knew I was going to be there. I could save on shipping,
Yeah.
and I could also thank them personally for putting her work together. And also, we're really hoping to be able to get her as an interview too, because she's a bit of a mystery. But this is just a visual feast. Even like I said, body horror wise, I'm kind of like, yeah, not there. But the art constantly drops me back in. I'm constantly placed back into the story. Craftsman's amazing. There's an Virgil Finley is one of my top three go-tos
Sure.
when it comes to craftsmanship. And this was the other thing that just, it was like somebody's taking the mantle of Virgil Finley and putting it out there. So I will be doing my best to get a interview with her and Avery Hill, because, like I said, it was just really one of the big heights of going to SPX. So
Alrighty. Well, let me flip over to my next thing. I picked up this Future Lux, sexy, futuristic looking character. I'm trying to remember the.
yeah, that's
Look, yeah.
yeah. Yeah,
Um,
I follow him.
oh, Scott Rule, I think is how you say his
Yeah,
last name.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
he had a bunch of comics, but I'm really loose with my money when I first get to the XPX, and then I realize, I gotta
Tighten
slow
the
down.
purse strings.
So I only got this one, and this story is called Dreamsicle, and it seems to be these two are shown modern time or currently, and then but they are having they're having dreams about being kids again, and there are all kinds of really frightening and disturbing occurrences going
Right,
on,
right.
both when they're adults and when they're kids, and it's
Really well done.
yeah, I mean it's beautiful art.
Yeah.
It's got a little bit more curves than I would usually like in the way it has the figures, but
Nice.
it
Yeah.
works for this. I'm pretty happy with it,
Nice
and
play on coloring too.
yeah, I mean look
Really.
at that. That's
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
fun. like I said, they had a bunch of issues. I'll probably end up at some point finding some somewhere else. To do some more because I thought this was pretty cool. Um, my final thing here is that I saw these. I recognized this art. I didn't remember the artist's name. Um, it's David Sandlin, and I don't know if I first saw him, but I vividly remember his work from the early Raw magazines, and he's just got a terrific style. And these are
Wow.
incredibly well printed books. Now these are this is a continuing story. I don't know if I'd understand it better if I had actually read the earlier issues,
Right,
but
right.
when I looked online, I couldn't find the earlier issues anywhere. So uh, maybe but just beautiful looking stuff. Really weird. This thing where he did makes everything looks out of focus
Yeah,
there.
that's
And
wild.
I mean, just and
That's
then
great.
there's all these giant fold outs. Well, not all, but there's a couple of them. There's one in each of the books. So there's that, and then there's another issue, and just
That's great. Oh man!
and
Oh
look
man,
at that.
that
Look at the
is
people in this hot
awesome.
tub.
That is awesome. Oh my god.
um.
Oh, I
So
love it.
anyway, so
Love it.
that's my haul, Kurt.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, but hey, the thing is that you just did that Gary Panter video
oh
where
yeah,
you go through those two large volumes, one with the sketchbook. So
yeah.
thanks for teasing the hell out of that with us.
That's another one where I go like, should I just mark certain pages? But Gary Panter, because he does so much where he
It's
references backwards, you kind of get
yes.
a much better feel when you flip through. So people can either watch the dang long video or they don't have to.
I always do. I always love your videos, and the thing is though, you get into that being teased because no matter how high def you're watching something on,
Yeah.
it's not the same as owning the
Oh yeah.
book. So
Those books
there
are
was,
so well done. They're so beautiful in person. Those are really
it,
great books.
and I'm a huge Gary Panter mark, so I'm gonna have to get a
Yeah, it's been
copy
out
of
of print, but
that.
it's not that hard to find. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they did a lot. So the last thing is I did not got John Tar from Floating World, but when we were chatting before leaving to go down to SPX, you said I think I have another copy of John Tar somewhere around here. I was like, oh, don't worry about it, Dad. Don't worry about it. Everything, and of course, right when I was leaving, you remembered where you had it, and you handed me a copy, and I just can't thank you enough um,
Oh
uh,
yeah. Well,
for
that's I have that because of SPX last year because they were
right.
selling it early at SPX, and even though I'd
Right.
already ordered a copy, I bought one because I couldn't wait, and then so I had a second copy because the one I had pre-ordered came in, and I had two copies, and I just thought you might enjoy it.
No, I really have to thank you. Like I said, I'm looking forward to coming down there again. I actually, once we're finished recording this, I have a couple of ideas. One of them I kind of teased out already, which was the Atomic Books, because I went to school just down the street from Atomic Books, so was over there during college quite often. Um, you know,
Well, the thing is,
spending my lunch money, my cigarettes and beer money on comics.
so I used to go a lot, and then I had kind of a period when I was in a real funk, and nothing was
Right.
making me happy as it is. Worrying about kids and this and that and jobs and stuff, and I
Yeah.
just kind of got into a funk for a couple of years, and then for some reason I didn't immediately go back to Atomic Books, but now I started going because I used to get big spender cards all the time and get because I was spending so much money. But I've been going back. You can't go back too often though because a lot of this stuff doesn't, even if you find a comic you like, generally it's not even coming out once a year. So the stuff I like, so you can go there, um, and not find too much, but that's okay too. We should definitely check it out. There's definitely it's been a couple months. I probably haven't gone since the beginning of the year, so I'm due. And there's a couple things that I think should be there. And what's another good thing is sometimes when things first go out of print and you can't find them, if you were looking at for something, and you go like, dang, I wish I had gotten that. Now I can't order it. They might still have it there.
That's one of the reasons I want to go. Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
I will say that if you try and use their website though,
Yeah.
one time I tried to order something and like half the things they didn't really have.
Right.
So they
Right. Yeah.
canceled.
It's kind of tough. They want you to visit. And then there's the Paper Moon Diner just up around the corner too. I don't know if you've ever been there, but they're great.
Is that the breakfast place? Because I
Yes.
have
Yeah. Greatest pancakes in the world. The greatest pancakes in the world.
That's
And
Carter's
bacon too.
favorite. That's Carter's
Oh, it's
favorite
mine
food
too.
Of all.
Mine
So
too. Yeah.
Carter really likes the pancakes there.
So yeah, I just once again can't thank you enough. And I'm just looking forward to hanging out with you again. So
Yeah, I
and
had a great time, and it was a lot of fun. It was like spend your year and
yeah,
some of your stories, and I think if we can plan some things. The other thing is that we can try and go to Second Story Books, which is this huge um,
oh
bookstore outside
yeah,
of. It's in like I think it's Rockville. I've gone there a couple times now,
okay,
but the thing is, they have one room where they do consignment comics, and sometimes you go there and they got a lot of good stuff, and sometimes you go there
oh,
and they don't got much. But
they
I
don't have
got a
anything yet,
great haul one time, a really great haul, and the prices are reasonable. They're not cover price, but they're not.
right?
But a lot of these things, if they were being printed right now, a lot of those earlier things would cost more. So I don't think it's a.
Right.
So that would be a fun trip to take. They mostly do mail order these days, but they and I know there's some stuff where that isn't on the floor for you to browse. But like I say, that one room of comics is usually worth the trip.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm really saying that this is not a one and done video where Dan and I have gotten together after an adventure. I'm going to be bugging him a lot because I work from home. So anytime I could get a day that I can write off of my taxes because it's related to my work, I'm all for it. I'm all for it.
All right.
So,
Well,
but hey, thank you, Dan.
thank you, Kurt. And I will talk to you again soon.
Absolutely. We'll see you.
Bye bye.